Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Chiefskate, and we are back with another episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we will be discussing playing a House Escher Outcast gang. We will discuss their strengths, their weaknesses, their fighters, their playstyle, and provide you with 3 1,400 point starting rosters to begin your very first campaign of Necromunda Ash Wastes. For those of you guys who've been tuning in for the very first time, in case you're unaware, I've been going through and making Outcast gangs rosters for every single delegation available for all the merchant guilds, the criminal alliances, as well as for the noble houses. And now we're doing exactly the same thing, going to each one of the different starting houses of the original Necromunda campaign system. So this time we'll be talking about House Escher, and we're going to talk about exactly how you guys can use these people in your games in Necromunda out in the Ash Wastes. So with that being said, let's get this video on a roll. So first of all, let's talk about the strengths of playing a House Outcast gang. First of all, Outcast gangs have cheaper leaders, champions, and fighters than normal House gangs. Alright, especially when it comes to leaders, you actually have 4 different stat lines you can actually choose to make your leaders, so they're very, very versatile. Or you could actually substitute that leader character with a Dramatis Personae leader and from that specific house. So for example, let's say you want to have a house agent to lead your gang, you can possibly do that because all you gotta do is take that stats, pay for the cost, and use that to lead your Outcast game, which allows you to make some really, really cool options and a lot of different types of gangs and add a lot of variety to the gangs that can be fielded in a campaign of Necromunda. At the same time, you also have access to all the same weapons, war gear, brutes, hanger-ons, upgrades, all the different kind of game mechanics that you can purchase for a gang. You can also put that for your Outcast gang as well, because it's also readily available, because as a House Outcast gang, you have access to those house gear. At the same time, you also gain access to the starting gear that comes with the Outcast gang. So for example, if you want to use a chain sword, for example, and normally your house gang can't have that, well, you can use it because now it's available to your Outcast list, which is kind of nice as well. At the same time, your champions and your leaders also have no weapon and equipment restrictions from the house list either, which is also really nice too. So for example, if you have a fighter with specific gear that can be taken by the entire gang, so for example, if you have a prospect level character who's the only character that can take that type of weapon for a house gang, well, in an Outcast gang, it's free reign. That weapon can go to any fighter that you want, which is really, really awesome as well. So because of it, you can make some really powerful exploits as well as some very powerful combinations for your Outcast gangs. Now, with all the strengths involved of playing an Outcast gang, there are some notable weaknesses, and let's go ahead and talk about that next. Alright, so let's talk about the obvious weakness of playing an Outcast gang. Outcast champions and Outcast scum have pretty mediocre stats compared to their house-specific counterparts, okay? So they're especially their psychology stats, like their leadership, cool, willpower, same thing with intelligence, they're kind of mediocre at best. And same thing with their combat stats as well. So they will not be as good as house-specific champions and house-specific scum. At the same time, you don't have access to the same type of skills or some special abilities and some unique game mechanics of the normal house lists. Alright, so for example, if there's a very unique kind of skill that's specific to a house, you won't be able to access that because your Outcast scum only have access to cunning, for example, as their primary skill, and your champions can only take archetype specific skills, so you can't get those other skills from that. So that part is kind of sad as well. At the same time, you also have some fierce restrictions on your alliances as an Outcast gang. If you're a House Outcast gang, you can only take house specific alliances only. So whatever alliances, strong alliances that a noble house takes, those are the only alliances you can make. So if you're really big on the whole alliance game system, just be aware that your alliances will be severely limited if you play a House Outcast game. And as always, when it comes to Outcast games specifically, you'll need to beware the wrath of the balance bandwagon. Unfortunately, the balance bandwagon will always find some way to scream and cry overpowered and balance and cry salty, bitter tears of why they're losing their games. So just be aware that every single time you play an Outcast gang, you will have to deal with the balance bandwagon of some sort, and they're always lurking about, hiding in the shadows, ready to spring upon you. So just be prepared to deal with that level of immaturity and just learn to move on beyond it. So, because the balance bandwagon is a legitimate thing you got to worry about. So now that we're done talking about the strengths and weaknesses of playing a house gang, Outcast gang, let's go ahead and talk about specifically about this house and the kind of benefits you could expect from it in your Outcast gang. Alright, so now that we're done talking about the strengths and weaknesses of playing a House Outcast gang, let's talk about House Escher specifically. So, are Escher fighters just too expensive for you? If the answer is yes on this one, then I highly suggest you play an Escher Outcast game because you get cheaper fighters. Your cheaper fighters come in the form of Outcast champions as well as Outcast scum. Now the nice thing about that is that even though you're playing with cheaper fighters, you still have access to the awesome toxin and gas weapons to use for your fighters as normal Escher gangs do. The House Escher uses a lot of toxins as well as gas weapons in order to accomplish their objectives, especially when you combine that with clan alchemy to really help out the gang, get those chems really going for you, so you'll be able to do that. And the nice thing about that is because you have such cheaper fighters, you can field more fighters than Escher gang traditionally can and still pretty much do exactly the same kind of tricks. And the reason why is because all the equipment, hanger-ons, brutes, etc. are available for a House Escher gang are available for their Outcast counterparts, and so it makes them really, really awesome as well. At the same time, you can also do some really cool diversity things like using a dramatis personae, like a house agent to lead your gang, which would be actually kind of cool. So now that we're done talking about the House Escher Outcast gang specifically, let's talk about some potential issues you might run into by playing an Outcast gang. Now, the biggest potential issue I say with playing a House Outcast gang for House Escher is the chem alchemy game mechanic. Now, in case you guys aren't familiar, chem alchemy actually plays a huge role in an Escher gang these days. It's actually one of the more interesting and unique game mechanics that's coming out for all the great houses of Necromunda. And pretty much what this does, this allows you to manipulate the chems that you use for both your toxin weapons, your gas weapons, as well as different narcotics and chems that your characters can consume during a game. And they have some really cool effects you can customize. You can have really devastating effects for enemies, really positive ones for your fighters as well. And so because of that, it just costs money in order for you to make that happen. Now, there are two potential arguments you can take about the chem alchemy game mechanic for House Escher Outcast gangs. First of all, you have the yes argument. The yes argument says yes, even though you're an Outcast gang, you can still use chem alchemy in your gang. The reason why I say the yes to the argument to that is because chems are chems no matter where you go, no matter where you purchase them from. These are like narcotics and stuff that gangs would purchase in the criminal underbelly of Underhive and out in the Ashway set as well. At the same time, because you are an Outcast gang, you can still recruit hanger-ons and brutes that are house specific. In this case, you can recruit an apprentice clan chemist, whose pretty much game mechanic helps affect the price of clan chem alchemy that you can use for your gang. It basically gives you a superior discount on that part. And since you can recruit this person, rules suggest that, yes, you can actually use this game mechanic in your Outcast gang. Now, let's look at the no argument. Now, there's also another side to this. The no argument basically says that because you're an Outcast gang, you're an Outcast gang for a reason, which means that the clan, House Escher, has kicked you out for X, Y, and Z reasons. And so because you are kicked out, you're cut off from certain clan resources. And one of those resources could be clan alchemy, however. Can be clan alchemy. However, even though that might be the case, you can still recruit an apprentice clan a chemist, which means that you get those discounts on your chems. So the answer is still yes, in my opinion. Of course, you could argue no either way, and it's a simple fix of just saying you can't recruit a apprentice clan chemist in order to use that game mechanic. But like I said before, as always, when it comes to these Outcast gangs, it always comes down to your arbitrator for your campaign. So check with your arbitrator first. If they say yes, then perfect. You can use the clan alchemy game mechanic for your gang. If they say no, then you can't. And you know, it is the arbitrator, so their say is final on a campaign because they're the ones that are basically running it. For me personally, I say yes, you can use the clan alchemy, chem alchemy game mechanic, and the reason why is because you can recruit that apprentice clan chemist, and because chems are chems and chems can be found anywhere in the underworld of Necromunda and beyond. I say it's perfectly liable. Plus, whenever it comes to rules like this, I always defer to the rule of cool. So if it makes your gang even cooler, then I say yes to that always, all the time. But it could be understood why people might say no. Either way, have that discussion with your arbitrator, and of course, plan accordingly. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about exploits that you can use for your House Escher Outcast gang. So one of them, of course, is being last guns. Last guns and last guns with hotshot power packs everywhere. And the reason why that is the case is because in a House Escher gang, last guns only cost 5 credits, which is really, really good because of all the basic weapons, last guns have the most potential to be extremely powerful. You can give them upgrade options and aftermarket upgrades that makes them really, really good, especially since you can also purchase hotshot last packs for 20 credits. Now, what hotshot last pack does for your last gun, it actually increases your last gun strength to strength 4. It also gives them -1 AP. However, there's a downside. They take away your plentiful trait because you lose that for using that hotshot power pack, and at the same time increase your ammo roll to 4 up. But that's not really a problem, and the reason why is because of the number of weapons you can take. Let's give you guys a rundown for this one. So for example, let's pretend you're playing a House Escher gang. If you wanted to have a House Escher gang sister, which is a ganger level fighter, with a last gun, that fighter's going to cost you 55 credits. And if you take that same Escher gang sister with a last gun and upgrade her with a hotshot last pack, that fighter's going to cost you 75 credits. Now, let's talk about how this would work for an Outcast gang. Now, if you're playing an Outcast gang, you're going to hire a Outcast Hive Scum with a last gun, and that fighter's only going to cost you 35 credits, saving you 20 credits over the House Escher counterpart. And an Outcast Hive Scum with a last gun, upgrade with a hotshot power pack, costs 55 credits. So because of that, you're 20 points less in point value than a gang sister equipped the very same thing, which means you could put more last guns and more last guns with hotshot last packs than the actual Escher gang can, and that part is absolutely fantastic. Another potential exploit as well are the phalanxes. The phalanxes are these little lizard cat creatures that the wild runners can actually take for themselves for their game. I think they can take up to 3 of these things, which are really good attack animals that have the reckless trait that spring forward and attack your enemies with poisonous attacks. Now, because there is no restriction between fighter equipment in an Outcast gang, that means you could potentially purchase phalanxes for all of your fighters as well. And this could be potentially devastating, especially if you're boarding enemy vehicles, because of that reckless trait. That means they attack everything that's in front of them inside your enemy vehicle. And the reason why I know this for a fact is because when I ran my unofficial campaign for the Ashways Anarchy Road, my little sister Shade had a Escher gang with phalanxes, and those things destroyed in the campaign because they kept on attacking everything right in front of them on enemy vehicles. So you could potentially get this for all of your fighters if you need to, especially if it comes to boarding actions. So that is my take on what I like to call the House Escher Outcast gangs. Now, before we go to the gang list, of course, let's talk about the other fighters you have available to you. First of all, you do have your Underhive Outcast champion. These guys cost 60 points apiece. They have 5-inch movement, 3+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 4 initiative, 1 attack. They have 6 leadership, 7 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. Now, when it comes to your Outcast champions, they actually are pretty versatile with their stats, and the roles within your gangs can be fulfilling a lot of different roles for your gang. Now, there is some negatives, of course, with playing an Outcast champion, and that is your Archetype. Your Archetype is very limited for the type of skills that you can take for your gang. For example, you have 5 different Archetypes you can take, which are Brawler, which gives you Brawn as your primary, with Ferocity and Leadership as your secondary. Gunslinger, which makes shooting your primary, with Agility and Leadership as your secondary. You have Survivor, which gives you your Ferocity skill as your primary, with Combat and Leadership as secondaries. You have Mastermind, which gives you Cunning as primary, with Leadership and Savant as secondary. And then you have the Wyrd Archetype, which makes you have your weird powers and disciplines be your primary, with Cunning and Leadership secondary. So you are kind of limited in the type of skills you can take, but you know, them's the breaks about actually playing a Outcast champion. Now, there are some positives of playing Outcast champions. One, their equipment is only limited by the rarity value on the trading post. So if you wanted to get other equipment besides the house starting lists that you can buy from, your rarity value is only determined by, I think, rarity value 8 or lower was what it is. So you can pretty much take whatever you want on that case, which is really nice. And another positive about playing an Underhive Outcast champion is that you can take 1 champion for every 3 Hive Scum. So because of that, you have a lot more champions in your gang as the campaign develops. And of course, let's talk about the core of your gang, which is going to be your Underhive Outcast Hive Scum. Now, for these guys' stats, they cost 30 credits apiece. They have 5-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 4+ initiative, 1 attack, and they have 8+ for leadership, cool, willpower, and intelligence. So unfortunately, the Outcast Hive Scum stats are very mediocre. But the positive is they're extremely cheap to field, only at 30 credits apiece, which is significantly cheaper than a lot of other gangs, as well as in some cases some juvies for some of the house lists that you can actually purchase from. So that part's kind of cool. Not to mention, your Hive Scum also count both as gangers as well as juvie level fighters in your gang as well. And that's really nice because for every 3 Hive Scum that you have in your gang, in your Outcast gang anyways, you can take 1 additional champion. Now, because their stats are so mediocre, that also means that the Outcast Hive Scum is very versatile because it can fill many different roles that you want with your gang. You can make them close combat fighters, you can make them shooters, you can give them psychic powers if you're able to do so through some kind of exploit. So that part is really nice about Hive Scum. They're very versatile and they can fulfill a lot of different jobs. Now, Here's another unfortunate part. Unfortunately, when you create your Outcast gang, you cannot take a specialist right off the bat. You have to have that pop up later on as you gain experience. So you can't start off with any special weapons for your specialist as a campaign starts. But that's not so bad though, and the reason why is because the weapons they can purchase from the house lists, and at the same time you also have access to more champions than a normal gang does as well. And that pretty much makes it my take on the Outcast Hive Scum. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about our different gangs. I'm going to tell you guys right now, be careful, there could be a trigger warning ahead for you, especially if you're one of those guys who believe in red pill and anti-feminism and all that kind of nonsense, because I'm making fun of that kind of nonsense with this gang list. This gang list is called We Are Alphas, which is a House Escher Outcast gang that's rated at 1,400 credits. So let's talk about this gang real quick. So first of all, we have the Outcast leader. It's going to cost you 285 credits. You're going to give this person the combat stats, and he's going to have the Wyrd archetype as well. You're give him mesh armor as well as a plasma pistol, power hammer, and equipped with a Waster's Dirtbike to give him that 8-up movement balance, and he's going to have the Telepathy discipline with Unbreakable will. After that, you got Outcast Champion number 1 and Outcast Champion number 2. Both these dudes cost 225 credits apiece. Both have Wyrd archetypes, both have mesh armor, hand flamers, shock whips, Waster's Dirtbike for that 8-inch movement allowance, as well as telekinesis special discipline with force shield. After that, you'll have 2 more Outcast Scum, number 1 and 2. Both will cost 100 credits apiece. Both will be equipped with flak armor, stub guns, shock whips, as well as Waster's Dirtbikes. And then you got 2 more Outcast Scum after that, Scum number 3 and 4. Both will cost 35 credits. Both are equipped with last guns. And then finally, you will have a Scum Racer, who's going to cost you 355 credits. This fighter is going to be equipped with a rock grinder. He's got an easy turnover engine, as well as twin-linked autocannons. And this is the gang list we like to call the We Are Alphas House Escher Outcast gang. So now that we're talking about its consistencies and what makes it up, let's go and talk about the gang overview real fast. So let's talk about the gang overview for the We Are Alphas Outcast list. And once again, a trigger warning for all those people out there who are red pill dudes or anti-feminist people. This will probably offend you. So let's talk about this real quick. So these are male Eschers who just want to be kings in the actual ice because they can't be so back in the Underhive. So either way, though, this is a very fast-moving, aggressive list that relies upon close quarters combat to achieve victory. And the reason why is because you're going to be spamming the telepathy ability to create an alpha hive mind, is what I like to call it, to trigger champions and add +2 to your armor saves for all the members with your powers. And what that's going to happen is basically what you're going to do is you're going to use your leader and your outcast champions in order to do this. Now your gang consists of 2 fire teams, which is assault team, 1 assault fire team and 1 support fire team. For your assault fire team, you have your outcast leader, your outcast champion number 1, outcast champion number 2, outcast scum number 1, and outcast scum number 2. Now this fire team's job is to charge forward on their Waster's Dirtbikes to engage the enemy in close quarters battle. You're going to spam your leader's Unbreakable will psychic ability in order to boost your champion's willpower to +4. What that does, it allows people within a certain amount of range that your champions can replace their willpower with their leader's willpower. And since the leader's combat stats is a 4 willpower, it means your champions will have 91 will have a 4 willpower, which means that they'll be triggering their psychic abilities 91% of the time, which makes it really tough. So because that, your champions will use force shield to add 2 up to your armor saves for all your fighters within range. That means that your leader and your champions will have a 3-up armor save, and your outcast scum will have 4 up on their armor saves. Now you're going to spam the ride-by rule with the fire team shock whips to cause even more damage when charging into combat. And at the same time, your champions also have hand flamers. Your leader has a plasma pistol, so that way they can cut loose with those when they need to for some short-range shooting and for assaulting through your enemy objective. After that, you have a support fire team. Your support fire team consists of Outcast Scum number 3 and 4, as well as your Scum Racer. This fire team job is really simple. They keep their distance and fire long-range destruction upon your enemies. Outcast Scum in 3 and 4 shoot between medium to long range with their last guns. And as the campaign develops, I highly suggest you upgrade those weapons with hotshot last packs and telescopic sights, so that way you have long range shooting at strength 4 with -1 AP. Now the real killer in this fire team is the Scum Racer's twin linked autocannons with rapid fire, strength 7, -2 AP, 2 damage shots, and that's really good at tear up your enemy as well. And that via weapons can be used to suppress your enemy at a distance, and then of course you use your assault team to close in, spamming that hive mind alpha hive mind game mechanic, and then take out your enemies that way. And this is what I like to call the We Are Alphas Outcast list for House Escher gangs. Alright, the next list is what I like to call Cal's Heroes, which is a House Escher Outcast gang. It's going to cost you 1,400 credits. So, first of all, your leader is going to be the Dramatis Personae Cal Jericho at 340 credits. This fighter's a Dramatis Personae, and you give him the Gunslinger archetype. He's going to be already equipped with flag armor, twin mastercrafted hotshot last pistols, a dueling saber, filter plugs, and a strip kit. He's also got the special rules a Charmed Life and the skills Counterattack, Gunfighter, Inspirational, Spring Up, Step Aside, and you're going to give this fighter the Overseer skill. After that you have Scabs. That person costs 100 credits, another Dramatis Personae character. You're going to give him the Gunslinger archetype as well. He's going to be equipped with flak armor, a plasma gun, and stub gun with filter plugs. At the same time, he's got the Grifted Forager special rule and the Clamber, Escape Artist, and Infiltrate skills, and you give this fighter the Fast Shot ability. After that, you're going to have two Outcast champions, number 1 and 2. Both will cost you 105 credits apiece. Both are the Gunslinger archetype with mesh armor. They're both equipped with long rifles and both have the Fast Shot ability. After that, you have 4 High Scum, Scum number 1, 2, 3, and 4. All 4 of these fighters will cost 60 credits apiece. All 4 will be equipped with last guns with hotshot power packs and packing stub guns for close combat. And then finally, you're going to have a Guild of Coin Hauler for 510 credits. That Guild of Coin Hauler is driving a Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler with a Munitorium armor container that's also equipped with twin storm bolters. So let's talk about this gang real quick. So this was the gang I used for Outlander's campaign Into the Bad Zones, and it is totally worth it because it absolutely destroyed my enemies in that campaign. Alright, the matchup for this build is shooting everything and shooting everywhere. All of your shooting attacks are going to have at least strength 4 base, which means you'll be wounding on most enemies at a 3 up, at a minimum for most of your enemies as well. And this gang pretty much fights defensively using the Cargo 8 Reach Hauler as a mobile fortress. In addition, the Cargo 8 Reach Hauler provides a 2+ bonus to your ammo checks with unlimited reloads, which means that all of your shooting attacks will have a 2-up ammo set roll for your last hotshot last guns, for your long rifles, and for your hotshot last pistols as well. So let's talk about the gang's consistencies. We have support fire team, which consists of Cal Jericho, Scabs, as well as Outcast Scum 3, 4, as well as your Guild of Coin Hauler. Now this fire team fights from the Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler, but can fight dismounted if necessary. Scabs, Outcast Scum 3 and 4 engage the enemy at medium and long ranges with their last guns and plasma gun respectively. This will protect the Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler from harm. If the vehicle should be boarded, use Cal Jericho to destroy your enemies in short range shooting and close combat. He is kitted out for killing, so use him as such as well. But if in case the vehicle doesn't get boarded, what you're going to do is you're going to spam the Overseer ability from Cal Jericho upon the Guild of Coin Hauler. Now the reason why is because the Guild of Coin Hauler will be able to operate the Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler's Storm Bolters, and with the Overseer ability, this guy will be able to activate twice, which gives you, if you do nothing but shooting, 8 rapid fire, strength 4 and -2 AP, 2 damage shots with a 4-up ammo roll, which is absolutely devastating. This is going to tear up your opponents as well. Potentially you can fire 24 of these shots at enemies between 12 to 24 inch ranges, and you're just going to be really causing all kinds of destructions on that. So as like I said before, spam Cal Jericho Overseer ability on that vehicle to do that, and then as your enemy closes in, then of course have Cal Jericho fight like normal. Now, after you support fire team, you have 2 sniper teams. Sniper teams 1 and 2. Both will consist of your Outcast champion as well as one of your Outcast scum. Now, these 2 sniper teams operate the same way. They can fight from the back of the Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler, or they can fight dismounted, depending on the situation and what is most advantageous for you. Their job is to target high-value targets such as leaders and champions. Now, the champions in these sniper teams have the Fast Shot ability, giving them 2 strength, 4, -1 AP, 1 damage shots with knockback. And since most targets are going after have only toughness 3, it's going to give them 1 additional strength to their attack. 1 additional damage to their attacks. Now, the Outcast Scum, of course, provides protection for your Outcast champion, and of course, they can also snipe as well. Now, as the campaign develops, I highly suggest you purchase telescopic sights or mono sights for all the Outcast Scum with their hotshot last guns. That way you can shoot your targets at longer ranges and get those short range bonuses. As for your champions, I suggest you purchase infra sights for those guys, so that way they can shoot no matter what kind of situation they find themselves in. Also, I highly suggest you equip your fighters with better close combat weapons as the campaign develops. I suggest chain swords because you get that +1 to hit and plus parry, but flails are also really good too for that additional damage output that they can possibly do. And this is what I like to call Cal's Heroes build. Alright, so our very last list is what I like to call Your Love is Toxic House Escher Outcast gang. It's going to cost you 1,400 credits, and your gang is going to be led by Necromunda, the house agent, for 125 credits. She's a Dramatis Personae with a survivor archetype. She already comes equipped with mesh armor, venom claw, a respirator. She's got the hit and run and rain of blow skills, and she's also got nerves of steel that you'll be giving her for that survivor archetype. After that, you'll have two Outcast champions, both will cost exactly the same at 125 credits apiece. Both will have Gunslinger archetypes, both will have mesh armor, both will have twin needle pistols, and both will have the gunfighter skill. After that, you're going to have two Outcast scum number 1 and 2. Both are going to cost you 195 credits. Both are equipped with needle pistols, shock whips, as well as Kim synth, and they also have two phalanxes apiece. After that, you got one Outcast scum number 3. This is going to cost you 100. It's going to cost you 80 credits. This fighter's got a wild bow with poison arrows and Kim synth. And then Outcast scum number 4 is going to cost you 65 credits. This fighter is equipped with wild bow as well as poisoned arrows. And then after that, you have two scum racers. Both are equipped exactly the same at 245 points. Both are driving custom walker vehicles with mining lasers, so that we get that strength 10, 3 damage shot. They both have transport beds, and they both have boarding ramps as well. And that makes up what consists of the Your Love is Toxic House Escher Outcast gang list. So that being said, let's talk about the gang overview. Alright, so this list takes a full advantage of two exploits for the Escher gangs. One, you have Necromunda. Necromunda is rumored to be an immortal death maiden, and she pretty much is so because her gang mechanics, she basically has up to 7 wounds. She already comes with 3 wounds base, but she also has 4 toughness, and instead of being seriously injured or taken out of action, all she does is she suffers a flesh wound, which basically gives you 7 wounds for this fighter to keep fighting, and since she can't suffer from coup de grace, makes her almost invincible, so that's why this game is being led by her. And secondly, you're going to be taking full advantage of the Kim alchemy game mechanic with the toxin trait on all your weapons. As the campaign develops, I highly suggest you recruit an apprentice clan chemist ASAP to take full advantage of this aspect of Escher gameplay so that we get those reduced costs for your Kim upgrades. At the same time, make sure you purchase a Kim synth for all of your fighters so that way they can boost the power of your toxin traits on all of your weapons as well. Now this gang is all about high speed, highly aggressive combat lists requiring you to close a distance to your enemy, destroying them in close quarters combat with toxin and gas weaponry, and your gang consists of 2 assault fire teams. Assault fire team number 1 will consist of Necromunda, Outcast champion number 1, Outcast scum number 1, Outcast scum number 3, and scum racer number 1. And assault fire team number 2 consists of your Outcast champion number 2, Outcast scum number 2, Outcast scum number 4, as well as scum racer number 2 as well. So, regardless of what fire team you're operating on, both teams pretty much operate the same way. You're going to close the distance towards your enemy with your scum racers as quickly as possible, and as you do so, engage enemy vehicles with mining lasers to cause some damage, and then from there you're going to board enemy vehicles using boarding ramps. Outcast scum 1 and 2 are the first to board the enemy vehicle because both are equipped with twin phalanxes, which will attack enemy fighters using that reckless trait. At the same time, those two same scum provide supporting fire with their needle pistols and taking advantage of their versatility traits on their shock whips to attack at distance. Meanwhile, Outcast champions then board next, fighting with their twin needle pistols in close range shooting and close combat. Make sure to give them a Kim synth to make those more deadly, especially when it comes to shooting and the close combat aspects of it. Now, Outcast scum number 3 and 4 protect the walker vehicles that they're mounted on by counterattacking the enemy using their wild bows as poisoned arrows. And once again, those Kim upgrades are really going to help out those poisoned arrows be extremely deadly. Meanwhile, Necromunda, she fights wherever she needs to, taking full advantage of her near immortal status and killing enemies in close quarter battles. Now, needless to say, as the campaign develops, take full advantage of the Kim alchemy to enhance your fighters and their weapons, and an apprentice clan chemist will help to offset the cost of those upgrades over time. And this is what I like to call the Your Love is Toxic House Escher Outcast gang build. Alright, so in conclusion, playing a House Outcast gangs is one of the coolest gangs you could possibly play in Necromunda. Outcast gangs have more access to fully customizable leaders with either Dramatis Personae or custom leaders you build, making some of the most amazing and interesting gangs that are available to play in this gaming system. Not to mention, Outcast gangs also have cheaper champions and fighters than normal House gangs, but at the same time, you have access to all the same weapons, war gear, boots, and hanger-ons that a House gang automatically comes with. Meanwhile, there are no weapon and equipment restrictions from the house list either, so whatever the house list has available to you, you can use that to all of your fighters, regardless if it's a fighter specific gear. It could be taken by your entire gang as well. Now, of course, as always, there is a drawback to playing a House Outcast gang, and that drawback comes in the form of the balanced bandwagon. So you'll always have to put up with the immature and hateful speech of balanced bandwagoneers who will do things like cry out arguments of overpowered and game imbalance instead of looking for creative solutions comes to solving their problems or just getting better at playing the game. They'd rather blame you than, reflect on their own performance and make adjustments accordingly. So keep that in mind if you decide to play a House Outcast gang. So that's good to do it for this week, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.